GM everyone, and welcome back to a weekly episode of We in Web3, a podcast about you, me, Zam, basically people who are building the future of Web3 and reshaping the way we interact in the digital ecosystem, from early developers to newcoming celebrities and advocates. I'm your host, Nikita Tsikaliuk, and as always, we're building this space by people for people. Today, my guest is Julien Bouteloup, a mathematician in the past who became one of the leading visionaries and investors in the French Web3 ecosystem. He is a founder of rekt, BlackPool, StakeDAO, and StakeCapital, and many more other companies that he is supporting today. Julien, I'm extremely happy to see you on my podcast. Hi, my friend.
Thank you, Nikita, for having me and good job on the podcast. Happy to be part of it.
Happy to finally meet you in a digital ecosystem. For those who don't know, we had to present together with Julian twice in the last months. It was back during East Warsaw, during Zibo Live. Unfortunately, for one or another reasons, we couldn't present. But I know that we're seeing each other very soon, potentially in Lisbon, where you're right now preparing for a set of different events around your brands, around big Solana weeks that is happening there, as well as we're coming back at East Gathering in Barcelona. But before that, I would like to learn a bit more about your investment thesis and talk about the French ecosystem itself. Not many people, especially from abroad, from the US, from Australia, know what big of a player France is. So that is going to be the topic of our discussion today. To start with, Julian, I would like to dive a bit deeper into your background. While preparing for this episode, I had a chat with some of the most amazing builders in the Web3 space, like Jean-Michel from Ledger, Sebastian Bourget from Sandbox. And if there is one thing that all of them said about you is that you are a crazy visionary about this space, visionary that always succeeds, a person who is coming from this mathematical and economic background. So let's talk about your background. When did
Very
you
nice.
first when did you first learn about cryptos? I do believe in your case, crypto it was how you started your journey in Web3.
Yeah, so I was involved in the early days as a client of Mongox. So the bank owned by the French guy Mark Keples that got hacked. Uh, Prior to that, I had some um, activity in cloud industry. Back then, there was just those kind of streaming platform like Mega Upload and like torrents, and that's how I got involved in the Bitcoin world. I didn't really got involved in decentralizations because of the um, I didn't really know what was going on back then, and the world. When people they say I was there in the early days, uh, and they pretend to have been there because of uh, what Bitcoin or decentralization or blockchain is about. I mean, back then there was a lot of things related to anarchists, and so I was not so much into it. I got into it because I own some Bitcoin. I got hacked on the Mt. Gox, and this is where I really accelerated the message about those things were real, and that's how I got my full attention. So yeah, my background is very mathematics, machine learning, AI. Now we call it AI, but back then there was machine learning and mathematical algorithms was back in 2008. And I got involved in distributed systems, nothing to do with blockchain. That was system like torrents, building system that cannot be stopped and decentralized in a way that anyone can participate in. Now they call it blockchain, but we were working on those things. With it was a huge industry in the music industry and also the hacking industry to distribute files and information and distribute in a non-censorship way. I think this is where this industry and this community met the concept of Bitcoin, the distributed money, I would say.
Wow, this is really an inspiring story. You being involved in the space that early, you going through some of this misconceptions, some issues you said being hacked early, and realizing the potential in the space. When was this aha moment for you when you realized that Web3 is a new Web2 perhaps, or Web3 that is the future that you work to, that you want to invest your time, invest your money, invest your energy?
I think I should check my emails, but well, for example, I have this type of things, like this type of um, like this type of thing. I just have on my. This is the
Yeah.
non-docs type of emails, rehabilitation, uh, trustee thing. I think it's when I lost a lot of Bitcoin, and Bitcoin on the market went very high, above $100. Back then, that I started realizing when I was playing with those things, my dad thought I was crazy, and I had a lot of computers in the attic that were doing some like hosting of files, and then at the same time also like mining a little bit of Bitcoin. So that was crazy, and then suddenly price went up on the market, and then everyone was talking about it as being a technology, as being something. This is where, so it was I think in 2014, 2013 when it really picked up my
A
attention,
long time
and
ago.
well, now it seems like a long time ago, but
Yeah.
it's less than 10 years. So. Yeah.
Exactly.
And then I built my own consulting company. I really focus and work on machine learning AI in the UK. I left security defense, moved to Asia, then went to UK in consulting company, and then after when Ethereum won the first meeting in London, I went
Mm-hmm.
to those meetings and then realized that I could actually build stuff because I actually didn't build anything in Bitcoin community. I was really into it because of the message of the story. But then with Ethereum, as I built all my life, I'm a programmer, and my background is embedded systems. So I've been building different things all my life since I'm 14, 11 years old. So I realized that I could actually do something in Ethereum without necessarily asking anyone or without any background. So that's why I started building some projects like ID Box and Flying Carpet that end up being some of the first projects in the ecosystem of Ethereum. That's how I got involved in the community.
Cool. And I know that even though you started with crypto, as you mentioned, Bitcoins and moved to Ethereum, some other altcoins, I know that you're well exposed in the whole Web3 ecosystem. I just came from NFT Factory opening, which is basically the biggest community for artists, builders, advocates of Web3 space in France. I know that you're also an investor in it. I know that you're also well connected with majority of its co-founders. And I've met a lot of teams that you invested in. For example, Solid NFTs, Sorare, uh, I don't know, some other companies that are based in France. But apart from France, you're well exposed around the world. You're not only investing, and that's what you just mentioned. You're traveling all around the world. Even right now, you're based in Lisbon, where you have a set of events coming later this month. And this is really amazing realizing that the Web3 itself, blockchain or Web3, it's not some focused geographically thing, but it's fully decentralized in a way of people who are entering it, people with mathematical background, people with financial background, people coming from entertainment industry who want to use NFTs to build this loyalty program or whatever. So that's really interesting to hear about your story as well. I know that crypto has always played a huge part of yours. For example, right now you are a core member of Curve Finance. Curve Finance is offering on-chain liquidity through pretty advanced bonding curves. So let me know because I'm following you closely on Twitter, and I know that time after time you're giving some of your predictions, thoughts about current market state. Are you still a trader yourself? Are you performing some market analysis for your investment, or you invest in the companies who do it for yourself?
So say again, what's the question? So I missed the
Are
last
you,
part.
yes, are you performing market analysis by yourself, crypto market analysis for some of your trading or investment moves? Or you prefer to trust some other guys in whom you invested who are doing it for you?
No, no. So to StakeCapital, we have a quantitative deck. So we do all type of arbitrage, market making, liquidations, and type of activities that hedge fund will do in the DeFi space. I would say we also have 20% in centralized finance, like other exchanges, FTX, Deribit, back then BitMEX, and all different things. We are one of the only ones that's still alive. So compared to all those hedge funds that took some really degen moves, like 3 Arrow Capital, without mentioning those guys and other people, I would say that we are team mostly composed of French quants. The activity of the quant job was originally created by French people, then moved into London, the city, or New York. Um, but yeah, so I have a team of analysts, a team of people that can predict, analyze the market. But I would say that most of the investment, everything that I do on the market, analyze, it's basically coming from my experience because I've been in the space for quite some time. So having access to this kind of um, data analysis of the market is quite complex, so it requires quite some time. But because I've been in the space for a long time, then I have access to this kind of knowledge. So I would say that we are not. Sorry, it's so we're not necessarily uh, like take a lot of risk. I would say that we approach the market with reasoning and pragmatism. So I would say that we take bets on the market, but we always hedge ourselves, and we're not taking high risk positions because we're here for the long term. And this is really the thing that differentiates ourselves compared to other actors in the market where they chase quick money and they will just do everything believing that the market will need one way going super high or going down, and they will try to make some high leverage or borrow some liquidity outside using some very speculative assets. We don't do those type of things because we're here for the long term, and that's the reason why we can invest and also participate in the market without, I mean, we need risk zero doesn't exist, but with those kind of approach where we use mathematics and predictions to approach the market rather than feelings and cloud chasing.
Got it. What are some of those elements that actually differ French ecosystem from all around the world? Like, for example, I do believe you're gonna agree with me that the US, specifically Miami, New York, LA, they're dominating right now in Web3 in all aspects: NFTs, metaverse development, DeFi. Nevertheless, smaller places like Paris, London, even Amsterdam with Berlin, they're growing right now. I mean, Lisbon, take for example our friends John Carp conference, NFC summit that is happening there around crypto art. It's also a huge event for European market. But I strongly believe, me being a public speaker, me being well connected with all these communities around Europe, I strongly believe that Paris is still the strongest community out there in Europe in sense of the whole Web3 development. So what are some of the things that differ Paris from the US, for example, or from the UK that you love the most?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think I came up to this came up to the conclusion after a couple years of activity in the space that the educations and the way that French people think and train at school, it's very like mathematical way. And I would say that you have in Europe, or like people from East Europe, they kind of the same like way of thinking and being educated, that we really like Cartesian people, French people. We think about in terms of logic, and if you look at DeFi and blockchain, it's made to remove the middleman, to remove the one that can use some manipulation or use some way of not necessarily telling the truth. Well, blockchain remove this layer of uh, obstruction. So French people, in terms of logic and Cartesian and mathematical approach, is very strong, and that's the reason why you can see them across the entire world of blockchain and all across all these projects. I don't like, I would say that 60 or 70% of all the major DeFi projects in the ecosystem of blockchain, you always find a French person on the core team. For example, inside Curve, you have, I would say, 40% of French people. Inside Aave, you also add the co-founder of Aave, Jordan, and also some other guys. I would say like a lot of French people inside the decisional part of the company. Like any across any big major projects, you have a French person, and then you have European people. So blockchain is decentralizing not only the the knowledge and the access to being able to build anything, but also from worldwide. You don't need to be in the Silicon Valley, pay high expensive rent to build some of the major disruptive company worldwide, but you can actually sit in the middle of nowhere, either in Europe or outside, to be able to be part of some disruptive ideas. And so this is a major shift towards this revolution, towards this society. It's like this revolution is inclusive and bringing anyone in this world to be able to access, to participate, to build, and to deliver products across the globe without asking permissions or without necessarily having access to a specific educational paths, like some very famous American schools, Stanford, Harvard, or different things. So, and the French, if you look at the, I've been, yeah, that's true. Miami, in all the part of US, they're driving this ecosystem in terms of investment. But the thing, if you look in terms of quality of investment, I don't think they're driving. They really focus on FOMO and injecting a lot of cash to drive potentially some of the next unicorns. But their strategy is to invest massively in all the projects they see without necessarily doing the best due diligence, understanding that they will pick up some of the major unicorns in the future. For example, the one that was created from some ex Facebook guys. This project, if you look deeply inside, no one in Europe will have invested because it's clearly not solving a problem. The technology is not so good. Those people never came from anything. So now there's a shift about people coming from GAFA, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, or those type of things. If they come outside and then build a product, it doesn't necessarily mean that they are going to be good products. And now the community is calling them out, which is fantastic. For the first time in history, we're not those people coming from X, they call themselves like ex-Facebook, ex-Google, and all that stuff to build those major projects and then raise a huge amount of capital. But the huge amount of capital they raise are also from their friendship, from their friends, from people that are originally connected to this company and making a lot of money. So then the community and DeFi and blockchain is realizing that it's not because you raise shit a lot of money that you are sitting on a good project. It's because you have an organized mafia, organized things of old school behaviors that put money into a name of someone because it's connected to something or something. But here now, Aave, Curve, StakeDown, StakeCapital, BlackPool, all some of the major projects in DeFi are not connected to some old school VC on the Silicon Valley or some ex Facebook marketing guys or whatever. It's a complete major change, and anyone can participate and can join.
Yeah, and
So
I
yeah,
really
and then if you look at, sorry, I cut you, but if you look at my the investment that I've made, that I've been investing from like a long time, 2016, 2015 in the space, also like major before in Bitcoin. If you look now, like some of my major portfolio people inside, some are driving some, for example, Morpho, potentially one of the biggest project coming. Angle stablecoin, one of the best algorithms stablecoin in the space. Some politician people, people from politics, kids from politics, like all those projects. If you look at it, like Ledger, like a huge amount of those projects. It's not because I left France a long time ago, about like 15 years. It's not. It's because like the quality of this project, it's unbeatable compared to the rest of the world.
And this is really interesting, taking into account that you left France that many years ago. You're still closely following and supporting the ecosystem by picking those cherry projects, because you just mentioned your investment file, and that's exactly what I have just opened. Back to July 14th, you started following the file of French companies that you invested in. You named it Future of France. I know that the file is much longer. There are some other European companies, but the focus is still on France. And this Future of France has been updated now already 11 times, if I'm not mistaken, by you adding some new companies. And in majority of these cases, you invested in these companies during the seed round. For example, Sorare, which is right now the biggest collecting and playing cards Web3 game. For example, Paraswap, you invested it even pre-seed. Immortal game, Cometh, which is another huge gaming company back in France. Whenever I go to ECC or Paris Blockchain Week Summit, these guys are one of the top. You want to talk about Paraswap, which you mentioned before. So it's really interesting that even though you are not in France right now, even though you don't have that strong roots as you had to, but you are still fully devoted and committed to the French ecosystem. With that being said, before we go into a bit more of details to some of these companies, let me know what is your investment thesis when comparing Web2 space to Web3 space? Because I do believe that the main element of Web2 is return on investment, which is basically money. So whenever some new brand is entering the traditional business, they're looking only for money. One additional element that is coming to Web3 is the community. It's the role of people who are supporting this project. The biggest metric for gaming projects like Decentraland and Sandbox perhaps would be not revenue right now, but the number of active players. The same goes to some smaller DeFi protocols or some luxury NFT collections. When you're looking at activity of those people who are constantly supporting the project, onboarding the next batch of whales to this project, etc. So what is your investment thesis when picking those cherries in the space? Because right now there are millions of Web3 projects, but if we look at your portfolio, there are around 50 companies you invested extremely early at the very beginning of those companies. And those companies are from gaming, from DeFi, you even have some companies from music in Web3. So let us know, how do you pick them? What drives your interest into these companies and these industries?
Yeah, so the thesis is quite simple, and I think it's one of the major difference between us and other people that are investing in the space. First, it's not a fund; it's a family office, so there's no external capital inside. So it's personal money, meaning that you want to drive this as a family business. So we only invest in projects that we understand and we can leverage in one way or another. Meaning that if it's a project that we cannot use ourselves, we'll not invest. If it's a project that we don't understand plus we cannot use, then we not invest. So what we do is like from all those different projects that we're running and we have built internally, such as rekt News, BlackPool, StakeDAO. So BlackPool, the hedge fund for NFTs, StakeDAO, the asset management for retail, rekt, the one of the major investigative firm, a major project in DeFi. Also the quant, and some other projects like DeFi podcast, the academy. All those projects, if we invest in a project outside, they will benefit in one way or another, or they will leverage the technology. So this is one of our line, and sometimes the project is really good, but we don't find a fit to use it. But maybe the project will do 10, 100x economically speaking, but that's not what we are into. We're not into speculative investment. So we do investment if we can use and we can leverage. So that's very different from other investment. It's a family business. So it's like a family. You want to do things with people that you understand and you trust first. And then if you believe that this ecosystem, blockchain, will revolutionize this society and it's a destructive revolution, then what we do is we invest in all the pillars that society is currently based on or running off. So, for example, infrastructure. So, over the past 10 years, it's really clear that the ecosystem, the US has been investing in infrastructure for blockchain, from RPC, APIs, blockchain miners, proof of stake, all those different things. This is what we do as well. And then on top of those pillars, when we cover the entire spectrum of those pillars, coming from any kind of businesses such as real estate, arts, legal, all of that, then we invest in projects that are built on top of those pillars. And this is how we approach those projects. So we try to approach the entire spectrum, and then we choose the best project to cover the spectrum. And then if we have a project that is already on top of, is already covering one of the spectrum, then we don't necessarily touch it. Even if we believe that this project will make a success, what we want is to be able to cover the entire spectrum. And then we don't do projects that we, as I mentioned before, we don't understand, such as sometimes we have like some nice SaaS, some nice marketing projects, or some nice, I don't know, those projects, we don't understand them. It's not part of our DNA, which is more like approach on quantitative analysis, quantitative approach, mathematics, physics, numbers, basically. If we can analyze the product in the numbers, in a quantitative analysis way, then we'll invest. Otherwise, we'll not touch it. Not necessarily mean that it's not a good product that we don't invest in, that are not mentioned in the website. Maybe they are good, but because we don't really necessarily understand or don't feel like it's part of our DNA.
Yeah, it sounds really straightforward. You want to understand the business model. You want the business itself to be driven by stats, by numbers, so that you can actually make some comparison, make some predictions. And finally, you also want to make sure that you mentioned the term family business. You want to make sure that you have a good relationship with these people, that you're followed by the same thesis, the same vision. So I would like to know how do you personally stay in a good relationship with some of these companies? Because not that long ago, back in July during ECC week, I attended your BlackPool auction, which you moderated perfectly. There were some of biggest French market representatives selling, like auctioning their goods with some internal utility. So for example, Sorare, apart from playing cards, which was one of one, which were unique, specially designed for this event, they were also giving you some access to some of their upcoming events, upcoming games. If we're talking about Komet, and that's a perfect example, which I remember I had this wow. They had the watches of Moon Sand piece inside them. So it was also a good in real life utilities that you are getting aside of their in gaming asset. And I know that you have a perfect relationship with all of these people. All of these people are coming from different backgrounds of different culture, but you still make sure that they're at your events. You still make sure that they're a part of your ecosystem. And here I'm not talking only about BlackPool auction. You also have rekt parties, rekt events. I know that you're also coming to La Degen event, which happened not that long ago in Paris, and now it's once again happening in Lisbon. So there is partying, working, networking. How do you make sure that you stay in good relationship with all of these people apart from this in real life events? Or that is the source of success? You just need to invite people and you just need to be active with them. Well, what do you do to make sure that all these
Yeah, so
projects, yeah.
part of, as I mentioned, so you ask how do we join those projects? First, we invest only in projects that we understand and the project that we can analyze quantitatively speaking, and also uh, uh, we tend to invest in early days, like very early, sometimes pre-raise. So um, we help this project to uh, architecture, design, and help them to build a project. For example, Paraswap, it's not like I joined pre-seed. I actually joined before that. I helped Munir in building the project and the message and the understanding of the project. But then also in other projects. So we joined them very early days. And then what makes us really different from the mass is we don't sell those tokens and those equity. So it makes us very good friends. And then, so we haven't sold any participation in those major projects. So for them, it's a big trust. And then what we do, we connect them into the entire things that we organize in the ecosystem. So from the Jane, rekt, private events. We have Le Banquet. Banquet is a pretty nice dinner to some
Mm-hmm.
of the major founders in the space. So that's what we do. And then we help them to scale, to build, to go to the next level. So and that's the reason it's time consuming. For example, like I know like some guys like A16Z and people like that, they have access to enormous amount of money. But if you want to have a meeting or call with them, it will take you 2 years. 2 years of trying to chase them to have a feedback. So those people, it's very clear that they're not here to help in terms of knowledge and connections, partnership. Even if there's some people, if they try to sell you that aspect of them being well connected, the reality is they don't have time because they have invested in so many deals that they cannot keep track of them, and they will not. Organizing a call with those type of people will take months, and meeting them will take years. So, but us is different. We, as I mentioned, it's a family thing. So if you, in a couple of days, you can have a call, you can have a meeting. We can come and fly to your locations. That's how what makes us different, and that's because it's a family business.
And I absolutely appreciate you being that emotional and personally involved into all of these businesses. You said that it's time consuming for sure, but once again, we're not in a rush. Web3 space is at extremely early stage of its, and before this mass adoption happens, before any like global legislations, taxation actions happen, it's trial and error. And I absolutely love your approach of developing this good relationships with all projects, not investing in what you do not understand. You need to be interested in it. You need to be a part of this company's or project's vision, and you're also developing these strong relationships to move forward. I have a couple of projects out of this 50 plus you invested in that I would love to discuss in person and perhaps even understand your investment thesis into it. As you said, you're investing long term, you're not selling those tokens, you're a part of this community. So if you don't mind, I would like to just touch upon a couple of those projects that I have witnessed in person. I have been a part in person some time ago, and just understand your investment logic behind it. First of all, the recent one, the event that had its opening last week, it's NFT Factory. For those who don't know, once again, NFT Factory is basically the biggest community of Web3 builders, investors, artists. And right now they just opened their physical place where in the center of Paris, in front of Center Pompidou. You can come, you can catch, you can chat, you can showcase your art and also build relationships with people. So what was the investment thesis for you around NFT Factory? Is it the fact that that is the biggest community in Paris that is gathering all people together, or you're closely related to majority of these co-founders and you wanted to support them by supporting NFT Factory as well?
Yeah, I think it's. I left the country, France, quite a long time ago, and I would say that Europe or France uh, they missed the internet revolution, uh, and also we are missing a little bit the AI machine learning revolution. So I would say that I grew up in France and educated in France before moving to the US. And what I want is to give back and help France to be part of this revolution, since we have a lot of people involved in those projects and building amazing, disrupting ideas. So I would like to make sure that I build piece of uh, rock into this mountain. So yeah, that's what NFT Factory is a way um, to invest in a community that will potentially help thousands of futures builders to create new ideas. So it's really clear and it's a no-brainer that I need to be part of this initiative, because community-based people that believe they are not alone and they can be helped by a trusted network of founders, it will incentivize others to uh, go outside of school and build projects, because they know that they can have assistance and help from an existing community and a strong community. And also, more importantly, something that I'm trying to do really hard is to make sure that those projects, they stay in France or they stay in Europe, and they're not, because of US pretty strong. I mean, they do what they are good at, and they should. I don't judge. And this is their business. This is a way for them to do business, and it's normal. But for example, like big VC American funds, they will always tell people in Europe, in France, that they should go to Cayman Island, BVI, or some other exotic beaches locations. Not true. Not true. The reason for that is because for them it's very easier to control them and to make sure that they are outside of this European jurisdiction. So what I want is founders to realize that they can build in France, they can build in Europe, and they should stay and build in Europe, because it is one of safe place and a place with a huge and biggest melting pot. The melting pot is not US anymore. The biggest melting pot and the biggest economy worldwide in terms of safety, visions, and and yeah, way of living is in Europe. So that's why it's important to support those guys.
I do believe that Tezos is the only project you invested in through ICO, and you invested into it some time ago. Tezos wasn't that popular like a year ago, even. But right now, Tezos is one of leading protocols out there for crypto artists. For example, back in France, a week ago, I attended a couple of Tezos curated events where artists from Lisbon, Paris, London were invited to talk about this crypto boom, crypto art boom that happened in Tezos a couple of months ago. So I would like to know what is your investment thesis into Tezos as well, and how are you supporting the team right now? Are you an advisor there, or you're just a support, an early day investor, and you're following its ecosystem?
Are you talking about Tezos protocol?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, it's funny because Tezos was one of the um, early days. I mean, it was in parallel of Ethereum in terms of. So I know the founder, um, uh, and the issue they had is a legal issue, like the foundations and all this kind of shit show that happened there. But the reality is like Tezos, in terms of tech, in terms of development, mathematical understanding of the protocol, like formal verifications, OCaml language, it's one of the best in the ecosystem. So you can be a hater or you can be a lover of Tezos. If in term of mathematical physics or game theory approach, they were one of the first one, actually the first one to deliver a proof of stake to the bakery and the bakers type of things. So it's a good protocol. It's a good tech. The issue is like, is there going to be a future for Tezos in terms of like broad scale? The future will tell us. But the thing is like in terms of technical approach, mathematical approach, it's one of the major protocol there. So it's the same. It's dragging a community inside. A good tech. It's another question. But when I first joined Tezos and invest in Tezos, is because they were one of the one building also the community of Tezos, the OCaml team. OCaml is a language by itself. It was not created for Tezos, compared to Solidity that was created as a non as a as an EVM language, so a language just for EVM, so just for the Ethereum virtual machine. Tezos, the OCaml language, like Rust or WebAssembly, that are languages used in Polkadot, or for example, Cosmos using Go, or Solana using Rust. Those type of languages are programming languages that are not built for a specific use case, but they're built because they are a language to do something, uh, uh, in a technical space. So in Tezos, what's good is that it's the first major and the only language that is formal verification proof based. So meaning that you can programmatically build test that will be formal verification test. So meaning that you can be 100% sure at the end that the test is covering those use cases. So all those bugs and hacks and exploits that we have in Solidity is because there is no way to truly check if the test is covering the entire use cases that you can have in Solidity in people building this project. That's what Tezos make it very different compared to the competitions. But then community-wise and etc. is another discussion.
Talking about investment in the French ecosystem, it's pretty straightforward when it comes to your thesis, to your vision. But I know that you are also a part of European projects. You are also closely following some abroad Web3 companies. You're advising them. So I would like to know what is your investment thesis and your interest in abroad companies, taking into account that you're not that closely connected to them as to those in France, for example, and you're not located in those companies, but you still know that something big is happening there. So how do you decide where and how to invest outside of France?
Well, actually, it's actually almost the opposite. I'm pretty well connected in the US and UK. I live more than 10 years in London, and a couple of years in the US. I would say, yeah, the reason for France is because um, I understand the way of talking to the French people in the way that they approach business is really from the technical and pragmatic reasoning, rather than in the US, it's more like business in the term of speculative approach, making money, which is a little bit different from Europe and French company based. But yeah, so the approach is really different. Is outside of France, I will more focus on marketing and business, in the sense that it's always about. I mean, I don't want to be pejorative, but it's kind of like it's multiple different phase of fake it until you make it. So you can do another round of funding without necessarily building something that is generating revenue. While in France, if you go to the second round of funding, you really need to show that you are generating revenue, you are profitable company. It's a completely different approach. Not necessarily mean that a company will have more value than the other because they are making money. It's because they are in the US or UK, especially in the US, they want to go fast. So it doesn't matter if the company is generating money. They want the next round of funding, scale, capture more market shares. In France and Europe, it will be more about, okay, look, we are generating profits. We have this deck, we have this spreadsheet, you can see, then we go for the next round of funding. It's a different approach. Um, One is clearly winning better than the other because we are in a capitalism world. We are and funding is driving the ecosystem, the society. But yes, different. I would say the echo of blockchain and the way that people are building project in the ecosystem of DeFi, they are more fundamentally based, like in the sense of the echo and the motto and the vision, based in Europe and France, because they're really about disrupting and changing things to make a world and society a better place, rather than chasing always economical value in the sense of money.
Talking about moving fast, you are well exposed in sense of diversity in the Web3. So you're investing in DeFi protocols, in NFTs, infrastructure, cryptography, gaming. The question I have for you, taking into account that you're performing all this research on your own with your team, you're well connected with uh, all the biggest OGs in the space. What is the hottest industry? What is the hottest part of Web3 that you are closely following for the next, let's say, couple of years? What is this one industry that you would advise people to take a closer look? Is it gaming, where which I do believe still hasn't happened? So Web3 gaming is still to come, where you own your assets, where interoperability is actually something, not just a word. Or is it infrastructure where you can create your own protocol, can create your decentralized app in a matter of minutes? What is the hottest part of Web3 for you?
Well, for me, I mean, gaming, SaaS, and all the different are fundamentally going to change society in a way that people or retail interact with the daily uh, fundamentally going to change society in like how society works. You know, if you play a game and you own the asset and then you can sell whatever, this is definitely changing the way you industry and the way that you can economically gain access to different type of features and unlock special activities. But this is not changing the way society works. So what I want is how society will evolve in the near, medium, or long-term futures. How can lobbying worldwide, how can safety, how can security, and especially at the moment with what's happening in Europe, uh, those type of events that didn't happen before. I mean, haven't happened since Second World War or the Cold War. My point is, how can we dramatically change the way that society works? Is really the type of things that I truly look into and want to invest. And economically speaking, or technically, or advising those projects. So what I'm mentioning is privacy. Uh, Privacy will be and is and always been one of the major topic that society or any civilizations has been either trying to stop or use in the way to mass surveillance of people. But with this technology of blockchain, I think for the first time of history, we have a way to bring privacy in a way, in a sense of securing society to not have the problem of society. The problem, if you look at the history and you read some books, the civilization always tend to die. But when you have a globalizations as a civilization being interconnected, it means that entire civilization can die, or humanity can die because of certain decisions that will push people towards a way of doing things. Like, for example, massive nuclear bomb attacks and escalation. Even if you don't drop something, the escalation of violence, escalation of fear can tend the extension of humanity or civilizations. I'm not doing metaphysical, metapsychological talk here. I'm being a pragmatic in a way that I truly believe that security, that privacy, zero knowledge proof, and all type of things can benefit more people, nations, and governments than the opposite. So for the first time, governments, nations, and politics will have a tool that can unleash the potential of their definition as governments and nation to basically protect, serve the people on the ground rather than being controlled by the lobbying. We usually tend to think that politics and governments are the ones in charge of making decisions, but they are not. They are controlled by lobbying. They are controlled by big organizations that they have their strings, and they use it. They use the nations, governments, and politics as their own puppets. So here, I believe by removing the middleman, removing the people, for example, as a central bank can directly interact with the people on the ground rather than using commercial banks to suck the people value. Well, here we can remove them, or we use them as a different way. They can still exist. It's not blockchain is not about killing people life. It's basically about unleashing new potential in a way that can serve society in a better broader picture. So I believe that privacy, one of the major topics that I'm currently focused on in terms of zero knowledge proof, scalability, and making blockchain a different, because people believe that merge in Ethereum was the thing. Merge was just an energy step. Now the real thing begins, is the scalability, the precision. So what I would like to say, and this will be even bigger than blockchain in the sense of the 10 years ago, 12 years ago. It's how society approached privacy. How can we make things end-to-end encrypted? That's why Europe is pushing, and it's pushing, but we'll have hard times, tough times to deal with because of lobbying, because outside powers China and US and all different huge power that want to have access to transparency in the sense of not transparency of blockchain, but way of being able to probe some people. Well, here privacy, if it's well implemented, can serve people, can protect people, and not get into those mass surveillance system like what China is getting into. But at the same time, yeah, regulation, and also regulation will need to use those tools and understand what this community is building. So this community is not and shouldn't stop people from regulating the space. We need to work closely with regulators. We need to work closely with those people that are building this framework to protect those ones that cannot protect themselves because they don't necessarily understand, and they shouldn't understand because it's not about understanding everything, but it's about making the space a safer place. So yeah, I truly believe that privacy is one of the major aspects of this ecosystem. It's how to build those tools that can use by governments and regulators to save people and protect people, and at the same time try to stop those people that will use those privacy tools to act as bad actors and commit crimes in the system. But this is a major, for example, people believe like nuclear is bad. Nuclear was one of the major steps towards evolutions of humanity and our species as a whole, because it's not about digging resources, but it's about trying, especially with the creation then in the fusion, it's creating value, replicating nature rather than destroying nature to extract energy and extract resources. Well, here it should be the same, trying to unleash the potential of those tools to help society and serve people rather than trying to stop them from evolution and lock them into those kind of mass surveillance system where you can just control people and believe that the way that it's like controlling people that you stop crimes and you stop bad actors committing crimes. This is not true.
And I mean, a lot of those tools already exist, like DAOs, social tokens, like the smart contract. A lot of those tools already exist at government and social investors and some bigger entities can use right now to make this privacy, to make this security a real thing, to encourage people to make their decision making, to make some moves on the blockchain in the most protected and secured way. I do believe that we're going to continue this conversation with you later in November when I meet you in Barcelona. However, my community might have still a lot of questions to you around decision-making process on the blockchain, around voting, securities that we have just touched upon. So I do believe it would be worth inviting you once again to my podcast later next year to reflect on what has been happening in 2022 and see how the space has evolved since that time. In this case, I would like to ask you, what would be this one question you would love to ask your future self? Let's say in a year from now, what would you ask yourself to understand whether you're succeeding in your journey, whether you're satisfied with what you do, or maybe anything else that you would like to ask yourself?
Well, in a couple of years, if I want to check
Yes,
if I've
yes,
done great or
yes,
if the community has
exactly.
done great.
Exactly. Let's say when I see you back on my
Well,
podcast next year, 2023, what would you ask yourself?
I will basically check if some of my friends like Sam from FTX or some other guys, how we as a community been um, providing value back to the people rather than personal gain and getting into those hard governments, nations, if they have adopted blockchain, if they're using it. And I don't want to say, and most people in this industry are like, let's government use Bitcoin, it will solve problem. Let's government use blockchain. This is not true. It's not true. This is not the, let's, what a government is in a DAO. I mean, look at the space. we are using blockchain, we are using Bitcoin, we are using DAOs, and look at how chaotic it is to drive project, make DAO, and all the stories. Like it's always like exploits, acts, like it's a major shit show in our industry, and it's really big pseudo influencers driving some projects because of personal gain, because of them getting paid. Like I don't remember this woman, like from a astrological. She's doing like some bets of. She was paid by Celsius enormous amount of money to make some post. And those type of things are toxic. And let's clean up. Let's make sure that first we can, as a community, make things safe and not chaotic and not shit show, and then we can, and we'll be in a better place to judge what's happening in normal society. Because if we cannot do with our own technology prove that we can have a thing as a family that is running without difficulties, then it doesn't make sense to tell others that they should clean up their house if our place is dirty as fuck. So my point is, let's help governments. Let's work closely with them to show them that the tools that we're building can help solving problems, but understanding that all our tools and things that we're building are not going to make 100% uh, clear the house, you know what I mean? So yeah, I would say like in a couple years, I would like to see myself as, I would judge myself as, did I uh, help, been building a lot of people achieve those visions, I achieve those dreams, personally been backing up those founders? Did I truly kept my words on those uh, uh, like the vibe and the vision that I believe that the society should move on? Yeah, so I will have an open and objective approach to what I've done in the space. I keep building, keep helping people to build, keep backing up people to achieve their vision and help society. So yeah, this is what, and also like in Rekt News, I've been able to sail the boat with this enormous amount of storms in this open sea of sharks without this, without giving away, giving off, I would say, to people that have been using lobbying very strong to either sue me, either say you should win a lot of money, we want to invest in Vex, we want to invest in this product, because some posts, some articles, I want to see them on the space. So if one day you see one of the posts that you should see on Vex that is not, and I'm an investor in this product, then you should ask question to yourself. Julian is using this platform as a personal gain or cloud chasing rather than serving the community, which I think so far I haven't done. So I'm still there, standing in front of people that want to make this space close, toxic, and want to use it as a personal gain, economic or personal chasing.
I do believe that is the best way to actually reflect on your work, on your contribution later on to see whether you're contributing to the overall growth of the space. Because right now, Web3, it's not a competition at all. Even though a lot of people are approaching it as one, a lot of people are trying to get their part of it without complementing to other projects. But I do believe for us at that early stage to grow and to have a sustainable future, we need to help each other. We need to grow in the space together. And I highly appreciate you doing this in Web3 space for last almost 10 years right now. So thank you for that. I would like to end up with a tradition that I have on my podcast. Basically, at the end of each episode, I'm asking my guests to imagine this situation. Imagine that you are stuck in a lift for the next 15-20 seconds in an elevator with general audience, people who do not understand what the Web3 space is. They have no understanding of blockchain, DeFi, crypto, but you need to explain, just like in an elevator pitch, for them why Web3 is the future. what would you say to this general audience, general people from Web2 world? Why Web3 that is the future, and why they need to pay closer attention to it already now?
Yeah, a couple of words. I would say that it's a technology and it's a revolution where anyone can be part of without the need of a special educations, the need of being born in special locations, and the need of having special access to specific knowledge of different things in the world of society. So I would say it doesn't matter where you come from, it doesn't matter where you're born, it doesn't matter what kind of education you've been part of. Anyone can participate and extract value of. It's kind of meta abstraction, meta physics, but I think it talks very well. It's like in a world where everything is controlled by some certain like specific people who are here, you can be part of this evolution. Anyone.
Regardless of your background,
So
regardless of your
transparency.
interests.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Wow, that
Cool.
is a very powerful way to end our episode today. Julian, I absolutely appreciate you being such a big builder in the space, such a big motivator for new minds coming here and building something sustainable long term, not just for the matter of quick profit, quick flip, but actually contributing to the whole space and making sure that everyone can learn something from it. Everyone can find a place in the Web3, just like you said, regardless of your background and your interests. Web3 is new, and everyone coming here and building something right now, even small, brick by brick, it already contributes to the whole space. So thank you very much for coming today. I'm seeing you in Barcelona in a month, my friend, and I'm really happy to be connected with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikita, for having this amazing podcast and for having me today. It was a great pleasure to be part of this show.
You're
And
amazing, my
keep going,
friend.
keep working hard.
I appreciate
Thanks,
that.
man.